Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Inner Conquest, the world's greatest modern metaphysics channel. I'm your host, Jacob Edens, and today we're going to be discussing what it means to essentially build out a state of consciousness, okay? So when you understand different things such as fourth dimensional thinking, law of assumption, law of attraction, etc., law of reversibility, what you're doing is you're processing the knowledge that you can hold states of consciousness which will then reflect into the external world. So instead of operating from an external viewpoint, instead of going, okay, well, I'm going to go do these sequential things and end up at this point in time, you're going to go, okay, well, where do I want to end up? And how do I think as if I'm that right now? And what you're doing is, in the beginning, it can be tricky because you think that, okay, if I do these things like this, then this will change this thing directly. But what you're really doing is you're using things like changing your inner dialogue, shifting feeling states, changing assumptions, identity shifting, etc., to build out what you could consider a state of awareness or consciousness, right? So the reason it's important to understand a state of consciousness and or awareness is because once you build out the state, you have total freedom to operate within the state, okay? So a good example of this is like if you are in a state where your relationships are bad, right? Every single time you go out to the bars, none of the honeys want to talk to you, or vice versa. None of the dudes want to talk to you, whatever, right? You have this state of consciousness that you built out because you had some experiences that were negative. You identified as an individual who doesn't have what they want in this sector, and then you go out and you get more evidence, and it's proven to you over and over and over again, so you accept that that's just how it is until you decide to change it, right? So that state of consciousness was built out. The interesting thing about that state of consciousness is that you know you can go to the bars and get rejected every single time, right? Like you have certainty in that because you know that's an identity that you hold, and you understand that whatever, right? Loser mentality. It's okay. Everybody does it with something, right? So you understand that 100% of the time, if you go there, you're not going to have success, and you just accept that, right? Now, that same acceptance of that similar type of state of consciousness can also be inverted, because there are individuals whose experiences is they go to the bars and they get all the attention, right? They feel amazing. They have a self-concept of, no, this is like, I want to go to the bars every night because I'm always picking up, people or whatever, right? They have a complete inverted state of consciousness with an acceptance that that's just how it is, right? They don't question it. They just know 100% of the time when they go out, they're having some action, right? So any type of issue that you run into in your life is really about that state of consciousness that's been built through your focused awareness and acceptance of that reality, okay? So what happens is say you're doing money, right? And you're in a scarcity state of consciousness where every single day it's like showing you how much debt you have all these feelings and states of like being limited and not having enough, and you have non-clarity on how more is going to come or whatever, right? You have a little hell state that you live in. That's all hell shit. So you have this hell state and you just accept it, right? But then what happens is you learn about law of attraction, you learn about law of assumption, you learn about law of reversibility, etc. And you're like, I'm going to change this using metaphysical reality, right? I'm going to take a radically different stance from what the world would tell me to do, which is go take all of this external action and do all these different things. And I'm going to re-engineer my internal state of consciousness and have that reflect, right? So that's going to be your priority. What happens is essentially when you start becoming new internally, you could call it a vibrational shift for lack of a better term. You start to change the vibrational resonances within yourself. So if you think of words as technology and structure, what is a word? A word is a label for a vibration. So if I go, I can also spell that O-M, and then you can read O-M, and what do you do in your head? You go, right? So the words that we use are indicative of the vibrations within which we entertain in our field. So choosing and structuring syntax and language on what we would call binary focus point of either wanted or unwanted is important to clock and register, because if we're playing disharmonious notes, the song's going to sound bad, right? So internally, we start going, I'm wealthy, I have more than enough, there's always more than enough, I am this person. What happens is you're emitting a new vibration, a new frequency that is of what you want, but your entire external world, because the dimension of this place is based off of two parameters, right? Number one, you lose your memories when you come in here. So you don't remember what you're entertaining from an imaginative, creative standpoint. And then secondly, there's a time delay. So you run into what you were entertaining from a mental standpoint in the past, and you forget that you were the creative genesis of it, right? So it's designed in that way to disempower you. But if you understand those two key points, you can understand that when you are emitting a new vibration and thinking the thoughts, you are doing the right thing. You are putting in the right action. You are identifying as this. You're being aware internally of what you want, because externally it is a reverberation pushed out, if you will, of your old previous state within which you've inhabited. So when you're new, you're resonating and oscillating at a new frequency of having or being who you want to be. Your external world is a byproduct of the version of you that was resonating and oscillating at a version of yourself that you did not want to be, and also a version of you that did not have what they want. So the big mistake is looking external for evidence of your shift in vibration because of that time delay, right? You have to understand that time delay can also be mitigated to an extreme point, but at the same time, if I think of grapes in my hand, they don't immediately materialize, okay? If you go into a lucid dream and you have the desire for grapes, you go like this, you go, oh, how did the grapes get there? They're just there, right? So that's what you could call instant materialization. You could call that a higher dimensional, more keyed up version of reality that's more responsive to what you are being. And in this reality, it's responding to what you're being, but there is that interim where if I hold the grapes in my hand, right, I'll hold the grapes and then I'll forget about it. I'll go downstairs and then I'm like getting a beer, and then I'll also have a handful of grapes. I'm like, holy shit, that was just what I had from a mental imagery standpoint in my mind. Now it's manifested. It's come from unseen to seen. So as you understand that, you realize that there's just a time delay. You realize that it's designed to make you forget what you did before, but that's okay, because anything that happens you can revise, right? Because what you're really after is chronically mastering and defining and cultivating what you could call your core vibration, right? Which is just your core expression of you. So as you begin to prioritize that as the focus, you understand that, you know, personal magnetism exists, law of attraction, while not perfect in its understanding of different things. There is a electromagnetic field around you. Magnet. What does that mean? Shit gets pulled into it, right? Your heart is a toroidal field that glues your soul into your body. So you have magnetic properties through what you are aligning with vibrationally. It will put you into concert with people, places, circumstances, and events that are in alignment with that vibratory resonance that you're emitting. So as you begin to control that vibratory resonance and really create and cultivate it the way that you want it to be, you are going to begin to pull in people, places, and circumstances that are a match to that, okay? And what you want to do is understand that you want to play the long game, because you want what you want the way you want it. You don't want to sell yourself short, okay? So what'll happen is you'll continue to work internally and change this internal vibration. I'm wealthy, I have the best relationships. And reality has two things that it will do to dissuade you from that acknowledgement of your work. Number one, it will make you perceive that there's a time delay, that nothing's happening, right? Number two, it can show you your old awareness, which is good, because you want to realize that every scary, spooky thing that pops up, right? You're saying I'm wealthy, you get a bill, you realize that that was just what you were aware of from a fear-based standpoint as that old identity. So as that comes up, your job is to disidentify with that and not be aware of it, and then reorient your focus to the version of yourself that's already solved that thing. Okay, so a lot of people will get a bill and they'll go, oh no, I need to do this, so I need to sell this, and then get that. That's called reacting, right? So when you react, what happens is something comes external to you that's a byproduct of your old awareness. It spooks you, and then you give control of your internal vibratory resonance to that thing, saying, oh no, this is true, I need to deal with this is more powerful than me, right? So you become subservient to that vibration because it came into your reality and it fucking dominated you. So you don't want to do that. You want to be the dominant vibration in your reality, which means you want to have, on a generalized standpoint, a chronic vibratory resonance of everything going your way. and you being the version you want to be and having what you want to have. So if you never have clarity on exactly how to proceed or what to do, you want your default, what you could call vibrational stance, right? Like a stance, like a straight up karate stance. Like if I'm going to do karate and I'm going to kick you, okay? What do I do before I kick you? I get into a stance. Why do I get into a stance? Because a stance is a certain type of formation within which I have the freedom to express myself from the foundation of that stance. So if I have a stance of chronic vibrational interpretation of reality as everything is going my way, I'm always the version I want to be, I always have what I want to have, everything works out easy for me, I'm a conqueror, life keeps getting easier and easier and easier, I just keep winning, every single day I'm knocked out of the park by how much the reality conspires to help me win, everybody puts me as their top priority. I have great harmonious relationships with mutual benefit with every single person I come into contact with. Money is abundant. I have way more than I could ever spend. It keeps increasing every single day. It doesn't matter how it comes to me, but it just keeps flowing. See these like generalized thought patterns that you can really anchor in? So as you anchor in these thought patterns on a macro level, your beingness reflects that in the external reality. And as you build these super strong foundations from really strong vibrational having standpoints of being who you want to be and having what you want to have, you essentially set the parameters of experience for the people, places, and circumstances that are magnetized to you. So it's really cool because you can overhaul your life by doing these general things, and it also alleviates all of the stressors of having to figure out the minutia of the problems that you may be hyper-focused on. Because remember, what you think you become and what you focus on, you create. So if you're thinking as if you don't have and you're focusing on what you don't want, you're becoming a version you don't want and you're creating more of what you don't want. So the number one thing is to understand where that awareness and where that identity are focused, right? So anytime externally there's something you want to change, you have one option, and that's either to find something about that reality that you like and hyper focus in on it, or you can go into what's called your fourth dimensional reality, which is your mental imaginative landscape, which is really what is the creative mechanism for new experience. And you're able to embody through your imaginative acts the version that you want to have from the standpoint of first person being that individual in your mind, right? Because you think about this, you have negative imaginative acts that you can accept as well. So like if you have a tumultuous relationship and then you're having arguments in your head all day, you're embodying internally the version of yourself that is in a non-fulfillment, non-wanted reality. But you're doing that unconsciously, right? And you're creating that to proceed into the future. And then you have an argument with the person, you're like, see, I fucking knew that they were an asshole. No, you were just entertaining that state. So as you begin to discipline yourself, discipline means to decide, means to kill off, which means you now have a no, right? You have the ability to go, no, that's not what I accept, right? Because your internal environment, if you look at this from the parameter of a time delay scenario, what you're really doing with your mind is you're planting all day. You're gardening, right? You're putting in seeds 100% of the time when you're thinking, when you're inhabiting states of consciousness, when you're running your inner dialogue. So understanding that if you're planting seeds, the first thing that you want to understand is, does this seed benefit me in the way that I want to be benefited, right? You don't have to entertain any thought or any emotion that is not what you want because you're free. You're not a slave, right? So any thought and any emotion that doesn't really match with what you would consider your ideal version of self, which is for you to define, right? But I could tell you on a general trend, what you want is everything going my way, things being easy for me because I have the skills or whatever, right? Just things that you would want for other people that you want for yourself, right? So you just look at the different states of consciousness that you're in and the different thought patterns that you have, and you decide on a 1 or 2 scale, 1 being what you want, 2 being what you don't want. And if it is number 1, then you focus on it. You put more awareness on it, because what you put more awareness on expands. So if you're having a chronic fear thought, you just go, no, 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 because that's planting itself in your mind the more you observe it and become aware of it and identify with it. So you're not saying that that reality doesn't have a right to exist. You're not saying that that can't be a third dimensional experience reality. You're not saying that, if you didn't focus on that, that couldn't externalize itself. You're just saying that, no, I have selective choice over what I put into my Garden of Eden that is going to express and manifest itself external. So the real game is really controlling that internal environment and really getting good at putting in wanted feeling states, wanted imaginative acts, wanted inner dialogue. And as you curtail that entire inner system, you begin to build a mind that's customized the way that you want it to be customized. You actually build the framework of your mind to be the way you want it to be instead of this haphazard thing that's going off in all these different directions. You construct your mind from an identity standpoint, right? You have your self-concept, and then you entertain with your awareness wanted state after wanted state after wanted state, and you train yourself to only experience internally that which you want. And if it's not what you want, you're able to see that immediately, clock it as a non-fulfillment reality, not accept it from not the fact that it's not in your mind or it's not a real potentiality, but from a non-identification with it. You go, oh, this is something I'm observing, but I don't identify with it. This is actually who I am. And you use that opportunity to create and cultivate and essentially grow the version of you internally that you want without dwelling in the unwanted state. Because the cause of all suffering is essentially dwelling in that unwanted state. Just in the same way where if your gas gauge says that it's low and you just stop your car and you go, oh no, I'm never going to get to where I want to go. I'm never going to get to where I want to go. All the time, you have the money to go fill up your tank and you could solve it immediately, but you have a propensity for going into an unwanted state. So that's why awareness is so important, because you got to clock yourself when unwanted states are trying to pull you into them. So I know you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys want to do protocols or coaching with me, the link tree is where you can find that. Additionally, leave comments on the video of future videos that you would like made. More important than any of that, go conquer, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.